For weeks, people have been saying that Smackdown has been struggling. It's the inferior show, rather, compared to Raw and even NXT and any other promotion that was going on. And all it needed, apparently, was SummerSlam to set up just a series of interesting moments that SmackDown could feed on. Now, I'll admit I was in the group that was not really feeling SmackDown as of late, but man, if SummerSlam did not set up a great week for weekly show wrestling, Raw was an absolute banger, and SmackDown, this was probably the first time I actually started, we were talking about it during the live stream, that it felt like it needed to be 3 hours. And I don't know if you can do some random weeks, have the show be longer, but keep it at 2 hours for other weeks. That's probably a terrible idea, but you get where I'm saying here. It feels like there was so much that needed to be covered, which apparently, according to some of you guys, that's true, and that some segments may have gotten cut or moved to next week. But while we go through this video of wins and losses from SmackDown, new segment, by the way, that I'm trying, so make sure you follow me on X or just subscribe here and check the community tab. Because after certain shows, I think it would be fun to have you guys give me your big winners and big losers for whatever that show was, and then we could talk about it. But either way, I want to leave you with this question, and feel free to drop the answer in the comments and we'll discuss. Are we at the point where you feel like SmackDown could benefit from a third hour? Now, I'm not asking if you want a third hour. I'm not asking if it's too much wrestling, because I can agree that, especially if you're watching NXT, or God forbid, if you're watching more than one promotion and sticking with all of it, that would be adding a whole nother hour is a lot. But could it benefit? Just answer that. Would SmackDown benefit? And is there enough talent? Is there enough interesting storylines that they could benefit from a third hour? I'm curious what you think. Let's take a look at some wins and losses that you guys sent in. Over on X, T says, winner the mid card, Andrade, Santos, Carmelo, and we got a Vinci vignette. I think I'm saying that right. All these guys can be an option for LA Knight's title. And their loser, the women's tag title. Get rid of the titles and rather have a women's mid-card title. Jade Naomi would be perfect to win that one. I love your winner pick. I really do. Andrade and Santos Escobar, I feel like, put on a really good match. I'm not totally into Carmelo right now. I was kind of annoyed when he interfered with it, but I guess it sets up Andrade something to feud with while Santos goes and takes on LA Knight. But the underdog winner here, and I'm so glad you said it, Giovanni Vinci, getting that. Okay, admit it. Okay, so I was streaming, right, and I mute during the commercials. I didn't realize it was his promo until about halfway through it, because I had it muted and I just see a guy skiing, and I thought it was for like a resort or a vacation thing, because we were just talking about what we were watching. And I unmuted him, like, oh my God, this is a promo. And the guy looked good. I love the style. I'm rooting for Giovanni to come back and be interesting, to be completely honest. It's not to say that he was uninteresting when he was with Imperium. He just wasn't put in the position to be interesting. He wasn't supposed to be that interesting. Now, I don't want to, obviously someone like Ludwig is proving that little thing wrong. What I'm just saying right there is because he found a way to make himself interesting, but he was also given more speaking roles, and his character is just a little more, flamboyant and memorable in general. So that could be a credit to the performer and not the writing. Who knows? But Giovanni being apparently finally given a chance since the draft, I'm excited about that. Now, as for your loser, I'm kind of with you. And as someone who, the last thing I want to see is a women's title, especially their only tag title, go away. I will admit that if I could only have one or the other, I would rather have a mid-card singles title for the women than a tag title. And that's because I feel like there is enough singles talent across the entire roster that only 2 total singles titles for Raw and SmackDown for the women is criminal. Like there is so much talent on the women's side on both shows that the fact that there's just one title per show for them to share, I mean, that's why so many of you'll have a problem with someone like Becky constantly winning. When you only have 2 titles, the issue becomes is that your top names constantly need to be in the conversation, or it's going to feel like they're wasted. But then you're upset when those top names are around those titles, not giving some other talent a chance. But in my opinion, having that mid-card title gives those other wrestlers that you want to see get that, that title opportunity. It gives them a chance to go and do that while your faces of the company still get to revolve around titles, or maybe they even get used to put over that mid-card talent for those mid-card titles, very similarly to when Becky Lynch last year went down to NXT for months doing exactly that. But I'm not going to go and say I want the women's tag titles to go away, because there are some good women's tag teams, and I wouldn't just want to give up on it and throw them to the side just because they can't figure it out. But I do think even a single women's mid-card title would just benefit so much in the women's division. Instead of having all of this Jade and Bianca, who are clearly built for their solo and their singles runs, instead of having them going and doing this tag team side quest, they could be involved. Jade could be involved for the mid-card title, and Bianca could be involved with the main event scene. Travis says, big W for Pretty Deadly. I know they lost, but technically had the main event match of the show. I also think the Pretty Deadly musical is actually going to end up being something instead of some dumb backstage gag. I'm curious exactly what you mean by that. I get kind of what you're saying, but I'm curious, how far do you believe they would go with this? Do you think they would actually do like a whole sideshow, kind of like how Sammy has his comedy show? Or do you think it's going to be a part of SmackDown and there's something, maybe some goofy thing they're doing in the background where I don't know, because you said it's not going to be some sort of backstage dumb gag. So I'm really curious what you think that would mean. If it's not going to be a backstage gag, I'm really curious of maybe you mean like it would be an actual show like the Sami Zayn comedy show, which I think that would be interesting and hilarious. So, but I put this in here because I really wanted to know what you thought. But I agree with you. The Big W, Pretty Deadly, looked great in the match. They are kind of that gimmick that is supposed to be, it's kind of like a comedy. They're a comedy act. They're a comedy gimmick. They're comedy wrestlers. But anytime they get put in these matches to put someone else over, they look good and they look interesting. So I'm with you. Big dub. Botch Booker says, big W for the presentation upgrade for LA Knight. New vest, new Tron, new theme. Dude was feeling himself and it was pretty special to see. I could tell you were in the stream because that's exactly what I was saying. Is you could tell during the promo, LA Knight was feeling himself. You could just hear the extra oomph on certain lines. He knew he was a badass. He knew he had gold. He knew he had the crowd finally giving the crowd what they had been wanting for well over a year now. Vest was great. The Tron was great. I didn't notice the Tron until later in the entrance, but I love that it's leading into the yellow and the yeah instead of the blue. The new theme, I like it. I miss the old one. I think the old one was really cool. It kind of felt more like that California theme, which is, I feel like, what he's supposed to be going for. But separately, I do like his new theme. It's a little bassier. It's got more guitar in it. I feel like it's going to fit him really well, especially with his style of promo. Overall, super happy to see LA Knight be in this position, and I'm really excited to see him defend this for a while. This is someone I am willing to watch have this title for months and months, through WrestleMania, because he's going to be here every week. I'm pretty sure I read online that he just got a raise and he got an extension, so he's going nowhere. So knowing that he is a weekly and he is going to be potentially, I didn't see this era, but from what you described, you have the potential to have the John Cena US title era where he was constantly defending it and constantly giving people an opportunity. I could see that happening with LA Knight and really pushing people to their limit, maybe having them up their promo game, knowing they're going against someone like LA Knight who can cook them if they're not ready. Hendrick says, Roman not grabbing the mic and saying to Solo, you must be some kind of dumbass, was an L. In all seriousness, W Roman, though, great to have my tribal chief back. Yeah, during the stream, we were counting down the minutes of just being like, okay, there's only 15 minutes left. He's not going to have a lot of time. And once there were only 10 minutes left, we weren't even sure that we were going to get an entrance because we knew Solo was opening it. But I'm with you. I know that you're kind of like half joking with the L on the mic thing. I think a lot of people were kind of hoping to see Roman say something and have him actually respond to Solo in some way. I think we're going to get that in the near future. It was cool. It was kind of like, it was playing the old hits. He came out, he did, everybody got to do the ooh, ah again, which once again, that crowd stepped up. It's just crazy to think that it actually, in an open air stadium at SummerSlam, sounded as loud as it did. It was comparable to a smaller arena that was loud like we just saw in SmackDown. But yes, massive W seeing Roman on the show, and it makes me realize that there is probably going to be some sort of a slow burn here. I'm excited that over time, like maybe eventually we're going to get Jimmy, we're going to get Paul, maybe Jay gets into the mix, maybe Sammy. There's so many ways this could go, and there's just no rush for it. I mean, I'm down for this ride. I am ready for Triple H to take his time on this, because honestly, with the way that Roman is booked, once it's over, he's probably going to be gone again for a while. So if you like having Roman back, this feels like a sit back and let them cook and just let him drag it out so we get Roman for longer. Even if he's not here for every week, I'm more happy seeing him every 2 to 3 weeks than having him all the time for a month and then he's gone for, half a year. Optilium says, winner Giovanni Vinci returning in style. Yeah, touched on it earlier, but worth saying again, because the dude was just completely left to the side since he was drafted. And it was so disappointing because it felt like there could have been something there between him and Ludwig, and maybe something with Gunther, just something with the overall falling out of Imperium. But we might still get something like that in the distant future. But it's cool to see. It's cool to see that he didn't just get brought back as like a quick get his ass kicked kind of character. You know what I mean? It's nice to see that there was some work put in and he's being brought back, kind of like what they did when they turned Santos Escobar heel when he started doing the backstage segments that was kind of mafia style, where or Solo Sikoa doing that as well, where it's almost like they're putting together these highly produced segments as like promos to kind of show this is a different character. This is an arc for the character. This is a turn for the character. And I am very excited to see what the plan is, because I think most people would assume someone like Giovanni Vinci, has a pretty limited range. And it's fair to assume that when he had such little speaking roles when he was within Imperium. So I am really excited to see the range that he could have with this character and see what they're going to do with it. The big L for SmackDown goes to Jade and the Alba match. The big W obviously goes to Tonga Loa. Like, I don't know what all the hate is about, man. Like, yeah, I know that he botches almost every move, can't hold the title right, has been wearing that eye patch for weeks, and looks like an NPC with every movement. But come on, guys, he's by far the best on the roster. Lil B says, W that the Andrade and Santos match got like 4 more wrestlers interfering. L that Pretty Deadly lost. Those are my yes boy. As for the L, I'm with you, but I also have grown to like DIY mostly from what you guys have sent me on the Patreon. If you're not familiar, head over to the Patreon. There's free content over there, by the way, on the Patreon. You don't got to pay for it. There is paid content, but you can just stick with the free stuff. And then if you want to do more, you can do more. But I'm with you. I would like to see, it's not necessarily that I want them to go on to some big title run, but I wouldn't mind letting Pretty Deadly look good for a while. And I don't know how you would write that to make it a little more interesting or make it, I guess, more believable, because they're kind of like a comedy duo. But as for your W, yeah, I like that Andrade and Santos Escobar did more than just set up the feud for LA Knight. They did set something up with Carmelo Hayes. It did set the entire mid-card in motion. It really did just take the mid-card and give it 3 different directions all at once. So we're going to have a bunch of mid-card wrestling to watch, which brings me back to my opening question. There is a lot going on SmackDown. There's a lot of really good potential stuff going on SmackDown, to the point where a Nia Jax segment apparently got cut. Maybe the 3 hours would be useful. Maybe, as much as you might not want it, the question at the beginning, remember, was could SmackDown benefit from it? I think an extra hour could have helped tonight. Wrestle Kingdom says the storyline between Unholy Union and Blair Davenport versus the Big Three is a huge L and a waste of time. It's extremely predictable. Predictable isn't bad, but in this situation it is, because nobody benefits from it. The Big Three get a pointless win, and the Unholy Union and Blair lose just to stay in the exact same spot. But we all know the end game is for Jade and Bianca to feud. I think you're right. I think this feud doesn't need to go very long. This is something that can get settled in a weekly show. I said it on the stream. I think Bianca and Jade we are ready. I'm ready anyway to put them back in the singles scene. I am ready to see Bianca. It's Bianca Belair. Like, whether you like her or not, like, it's tough to argue that she definitely gives off main event or main event scene aura or vibes, or however you want to describe it. Now, Jade is kind of getting there, but I know a lot of people think that she might be a little bit new still and she still needs to do some work. But there's no reason why Jade couldn't go and dominate the mid card, or at least be very competitive in the mid card. Obviously, this would be probably after a Jade and Bianca feud, but I am with you. I feel like these singles competitors doing side quests in the tag division, I feel like it doesn't help a lot. It only helps if the tag division seriously needs some help. And you could make the argument that it does, but I don't think that Bianca and Jade are there to fix it, especially when they could be so useful in the single scene. Yeah, I agree that the tag division in general could use an injection of talent, but I think you can find that. I think you can create that with the people that you have with some better writing. I don't think it's a question of talent. I think it's just a question of make it interesting. And at the end of the day, that comes down to the writers, right? PLX says, I think Kevin Owens is an L because his match with Cody is meaningless, and plus they're supposed to be good buds, so I'm interested to see how they make this work and make people care about this match. So I did see this in my chat during the stream, and this feels like a scenario where we need to let this play out. This does not feel like something we could make a judgment on. Think of it like this. We've been watching the Triple H era for a hot minute now. Is there any part of you that truly believes that Kevin and Cody aren't going to have more development to make this match more interesting between now and Berlin? Like, do you honestly believe every SmackDown is just going to be Kevin and Cody looking at each other, nodding, going, yes, this is honorable. I like you. I'll see you in Berlin. We already got a taste of it in Kevin's promo where he talked about basically he didn't think that he deserved it, but when he found out that Roman would be the one to get it, he said, screw that guy. I'll take the opportunity instead. So they already did one little piece of make it interesting, but you can't honestly believe the next few episodes of SmackDown are just going to be nothing with Kevin and Cody. The fact that they told us this match so early, that should be enough evidence to tell you, okay, something's coming. I saw suggestions in the chat saying that Randy should be frustrated that Cody gave it to Kevin and not him. The only reason I would say maybe not is because Randy has his own title shot going into Berlin, so that kind of issue probably wouldn't come until after Bash at Berlin. But between now and then, there's so much room for Triple H and the writers to cook something and make this more interesting than just two friends having a match. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think something's going to happen between now and then. You can't jump on something like this so quickly, especially when there's so much time before the actual match happens. This feels like a really strong, I'm just going to let them cook moment before I say anything. And if I'm wrong, if Berlin shows up, if we get to Berlin and that's it, it's just Kevin Owens and Cody shake hands, we're cool, hey, good match, buddy, you tried, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, that would kind of be lame. So I just don't believe that that's the direction this is going to go. Feel free to participate in the comments. Let me know what your big W or your big L or both were in the comments. This is a new series that I'm trying out, so if you watched it all the way to this point, I think I wanted to try something a little bit different than just the general hot takes idea. I'm down for any feedback. Let me know if you like this. I'm happy to do it more often. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all the patrons that are flying up the screen, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.